Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Today I want to talk about something that hits home for many of us, how to set what you truly deserve in life. Not what others think you should have, not what society says you're allowed to have, but what you truly deserve. Because here's the truth. Most people don't fail because they aim too high and miss. They fail because they aim too low and hit. We live in a world where settling has become the norm. We settle for jobs that drain us, relationships that limit us, and habits that destroy us. We tell ourselves it's okay, it's just how life is. But is it really? Understanding your worth is the foundation of everything you achieve in life. It determines how you treat yourself, what you tolerate from others, and the opportunities you believe you're entitled to pursue. When someone truly knows their worth, they no longer settle for relationships, careers, or environments that drain them or make them feel small. Instead, they start to make choices that reflect their value and potential. But knowing your worth isn't just about repeating positive affirmations or hyping yourself up for a few minutes. It's a deep, honest relationship with yourself that requires self-reflection and truth-telling. It's about recognizing your strengths, accepting your flaws, and believing that who you are is enough, not just for survival but for success, happiness, and greatness. Unfortunately, many people struggle with this. They confuse self-worth with external validation, thinking they're only valuable when someone else says so. This leads to chasing approval, staying in toxic situations, and accepting less than they deserve. They stay in unfulfilling jobs because they don't believe they can do better. They remain in damaging relationships because they fear they won't find love again. They lower their ambitions because they've been told to be realistic by people who gave up on their own dreams. This mindset is not only limiting, but it's dangerous. It convinces you that you're not capable, that you're too much or not enough, that your dreams are too big or your timing is off. But the truth is, no one can define your worth unless you hand them that power. You have to take it back. You have to decide that your voice matters, that your needs are valid, and that your dreams are possible. Not someday, but now. Knowing your worth is not arrogance, it's awareness. It doesn't mean thinking you're better than others. It means you're no longer willing to be treated like you're less than who you really are. It means walking away from what doesn't serve you, not because it's easy, but because you've outgrown it. You stop negotiating your value to make other people comfortable. You stop trying to earn what should be freely given: respect, kindness, fairness. This mindset shift doesn't happen overnight. It takes time and conscious effort. It starts with small things. Saying no when something doesn't feel right, speaking up for yourself when your boundaries are crossed, setting goals that reflect your true desires instead of settling for what's convenient. It continues by surrounding yourself with people who uplift you and remind you of your value, not those who question it. Over time, the more you act in alignment with your worth, the stronger it becomes. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to expect better. Most importantly, you stop settling. When you know your worth, you become dangerous in the best way possible. You no longer chase opportunities, you attract them. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never designed for your growth. You stop waiting for permission to live the life you deserve. Instead, you walk with confidence, speak with purpose, and live with intention. Your worth is not up for debate. It is not something to be proven, earned, or explained. It is something you carry with you quietly but powerfully, in the way you treat yourself and allow others to treat you. And the moment you truly know it, really know it, is the moment your life begins to change. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because you stop accepting anything less than what you were always meant for. Settling for less is something many people do without even realizing it. It's a quiet habit that sneaks into our lives and becomes normalized over time. We tell ourselves that we're being practical, that we should be grateful for what we have, or that maybe we're not meant for more. But underneath all of that is often fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of change. And so instead of pursuing the life we truly want, we make peace with what feels safe, even if it makes us unhappy. Settling isn't just about accepting a bad situation, it's about stopping yourself from reaching for more. It's choosing comfort over challenge, routine over growth, and silence over your truth. It shows up when you stay in a job that drains you because it pays the bills, even though you know deep down you were made for something more. It shows up when you accept a relationship that lacks love, respect, or connection, just because you're afraid of being alone. It shows up when you stop dreaming because you're tired of being disappointed. The danger of settling is that it becomes a pattern, and the longer you live in that pattern, the harder it becomes to break free from it. You begin to convince yourself that this is all life has to offer. You start comparing yourself to others who are also playing small, and it becomes easier to justify your own limitation. But that's not how you grow. That's not how you win. The truth is, you were not born to live a half-lived life. You were not created to simply survive each day, checking boxes and going through the motions. You were meant to thrive, to explore your potential, to challenge yourself, and to feel alive in the process. But that kind of life doesn't come to people who settle. It comes to those who choose to believe they're worthy of more, even before they have proof. Choosing not to settle requires courage. It means facing the possibility of discomfort and uncertainty. It means taking risks and sometimes walking alone. It's scary, yes, but so is living a life where your dreams never see the light of day. So is waking up years from now with regret, wondering what could have been if you had just believed in yourself enough to ask for more. You don't have to have everything figured out to stop settling. You just have to take one honest look at your life and ask, am I happy? Am I growing? Am I living in alignment with who I truly am and what I really want? If the answer is no, then it's time for a change. That doesn't mean walking away from everything overnight. It means making a decision to stop accepting what doesn't serve you and start working toward what does. There's power in raising your standards. When you stop settling, the energy you used to spend tolerating things now becomes available for building the life you want. You begin to attract better opportunities, healthier relationships, and experiences that match your true desires. Not because life suddenly becomes easier, but because you've become more intentional and more aware of your value. At the end of the day, settling is a choice, but so is rising. You don't need permission to want more. You don't need validation to grow. You just need to remember that you are not here to blend in, to play small, or to make everyone else comfortable while you stay stuck. You are here to live fully, love deeply, and rise boldly into your purpose. And that starts the moment you decide that good enough is no longer enough for you. Setting non-negotiables is one of the most important steps in creating a life that reflects your true value. It's about drawing a clear line between what you will accept and what you absolutely want. These lines aren't meant to keep people out, they're meant to protect your peace, your energy, and your future. Non-negotiables are not just preferences or ideals, they are the standards that define how you live, how you love, and how you. The reason non-negotiables are so powerful is that they create clarity. When you're unclear about your boundaries, it becomes easy for others to cross them. You end up tolerating behavior, situations, and choices that go against who you are. This might show up in subtle ways: staying in a friendship where you constantly feel drained, accepting a job that doesn't align with your values, or allowing people to speak to you in ways that diminish your confidence. Without clear non-negotiables, life will continue to hand you whatever you're willing to accept. Many people fear setting boundaries because they think it makes them difficult, selfish, or rigid. But in reality, people with strong non-negotiables are often more peaceful, more focused, and more respected. That's because they know who they are. They aren't easily swayed by trends, manipulation, or temporary emotion. Their standards act as a filter, keeping out what doesn't belong and allowing in what truly matters. Your non-negotiables should reflect your core values. For example, if honesty is one of your core values, then dishonesty in any form should be a deal breaker, whether it comes from a partner, a friend, or even a business relationship. If growth is important to you, then staying in environments that constantly keep you stagnant is something you can no longer tolerate. These standards are not meant to make your life harder. They are designed to protect your future and make sure you stay aligned with who you want to become. Creating your list of non-negotiables requires deep self-awareness. You have to be willing to ask yourself tough questions. What am I no longer willing to tolerate? What patterns keep repeating in my life that I need to break? Where am I betraying myself just to keep the peace? These questions might be uncomfortable, but the answers are where your power lives. Once you set your non-negotiables, the real challenge is honoring them, especially when it's inconvenient. Life will test your boundaries. You'll be offered jobs that look good on paper but don't feel right in your gut. You'll meet people who have potential but violate the standards you've set. You'll be tempted to make exceptions, to give second chances, to lower the bar just to avoid discomfort. But every time you compromise on your non-negotiables, you send yourself the message that your needs don't matter. And over time this erodes your self-respect. Honoring your standards doesn't mean being perfect, it means being consistent. It means choosing what's best for you, even when it's not the easiest option. It means walking away from what doesn't serve you with dignity, not desperation. It's not always a dramatic exit, sometimes it's a quiet decision that says I love myself too much to stay here. In the end, your non-negotiables become your guide. They remind you that your time, your energy and your life are valuable. They help you stop reacting to life and start creating it on your terms. And most importantly, they send a powerful message to the world. I know what I'm worth, and I will not settle for less. Taking bold, aligned action is the bridge between wanting a better life and actually living one. It's easy to dream. It's easy to talk about what you deserve, what you want, and what needs to change. But dreams don't come true through talk alone, they require action. And not just any action, but intentional steps that are in alignment with your values, your goals, and your highest. If you want to stop settling and start winning, then you must move from wishing into doing. What holds most people back from taking action isn't a lack of ability, it's fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. It's the voice in your head that whispers, what if it doesn't work? Or who do you think you are to try this? This fear keeps people frozen, stuck in the same place for months or even years. But here's the truth. Action is the only thing that breaks fear. You can read all the books, listen to all the podcasts, and plan forever, but unless you actually take the step, nothing changes. Aligned action means doing things that move you closer to your goals, while staying true to who you are. It's not about hustling blindly or saying yes to everything. It's about making conscious, brave decisions that support your growth, even if they scare you. For example, if you want to change careers because your current job drains you, aligned action might look like updating your resume, applying to roles that match your passion, or even enrolling in a course to build new skills. That's different from just complaining about your job or waiting for someone to offer you an escape. Many people wait for the right moment to act. They wait to feel more confident, to have more money, or for everything to line up perfectly. But the perfect moment rarely comes. Clarity comes from movement, not standing still. When you take one small step forward, you learn, you grow, and you get feedback. Even if it doesn't go as planned, you now have more experience and more insight than you did before. Inaction guarantees nothing but regret. There's also a level of responsibility that comes with bold action. When you stop blaming your circumstances or waiting for others to rescue you, you take your power back. You become the author of your own story. Yes, it's a heavier load to carry at times, but it's also far more rewarding. You get to make the rules, shift directions, and build a life that reflects your vision, not one that's handed to you by default. Aligned action also requires consistency. One big move can be life-changing, but often it's the small daily actions that lead to massive transformation. It's waking up early to work on your side project. It's choosing to have the hard conversation instead of avoiding it. It's saying no to what drains you and yes to what challenges you. When your daily habits reflect your long-term goals, success becomes inevitable. And yes, action will sometimes come with failure. You might fall, stumble, or even feel like giving up. But that's part of the process. Every successful person you admire has failed, probably more times than you know. What separates them is not talent or luck, it's their willingness to keep going, to learn from setbacks, and to stay committed to the bigger picture. Taking bold, aligned action is not about being fearless, it's about moving forward even when you're afraid. Because you've decided that your growth matters more than your comfort. And once you begin to act from that place, not just once but consistently, you become unstoppable. Your life begins to reflect your courage, not your caution. And that's when real change begins. Embracing discomfort for growth is one of the most transformative decisions you can make in life. Most people are conditioned to avoid discomfort at all costs. We're taught to seek ease, to stay safe, and to avoid anything that feels uncertain, challenging, or uncomfortable. But the reality is this: comfort zones are not where growth happens. If you want to become someone you've never been, do things you've never done, and live a life you've never experienced, you must be willing to step into discomfort and face what you've been avoiding. Growth and comfort are rarely found in the same place. That's because anything worth achieving, confidence, Success, strong relationships, personal breakthroughs, requires stretching beyond what feels familiar. Think about it. The first time you tried something new, whether it was speaking in public, going to the gym, starting a business, or setting a boundary, it probably felt awkward, scary, or uncertain. But if you pushed through that discomfort, you grew. You gained skills, you gained experience, and most importantly, you gained belief in yourself. Avoiding discomfort leads to stagnation. When people fear failure, rejection, or the unknown, they end up living small, controlled lives. They don't take risks, they don't speak up, and they don't pursue their dream. Instead, they repeat the same routines day after day, hoping that things will improve without change. But life doesn't work that way. Growth is not automatic. It requires effort, challenge, and at times struggle. That doesn't mean you have to suffer, but it does mean you have to get uncomfortable. When you embrace discomfort, you become mentally and emotionally stronger. You learn how to navigate fear, deal with rejection, and stay grounded under pressure. These are critical skills that help you not only reach your goals, but sustain them. Too often people want success, but aren't willing to go through what success requires. They want the result but not the process. But it's in the process, in the sweat, the risk, the vulnerability, that real transformation happens. Discomfort is also a sign that you're moving forward. When you start feeling resistance, it usually means you're entering new territory. That's not a bad thing, it's a sign that growth is happening. In fact, you should start becoming suspicious of too much comfort. If everything feels easy, predictable, and perfectly controlled, it's likely you're not pushing yourself. You're not evolving, you're maintaining. There's also emotional discomfort, the kind that comes from facing parts of yourself you've ignored or denied. Maybe it's healing from past pain, letting go of toxic relationships, or finally acknowledging that the life you're living isn't fulfilled. These are uncomfortable truths, but facing them is the first step to creating real change. It's not about beating yourself up, it's about being honest enough to grow. One of the most powerful mindsets you can adopt is this: discomfort is not a sign to stop, it's a sign to lean in. If it scares you, it probably matters. If it challenges you, it's probably teaching you. The goal isn't to eliminate discomfort, but to build the resilience to move through it. Over time, what once felt hard becomes normal. The gym becomes a habit. Public speaking becomes a skill. Difficult conversations become easier. Why? Because you trained yourself to be okay with the temporary discomfort in exchange for long-term growth. That's what winners do. They feel the fear and keep going anyway. So if you want to grow, if you want to stop settling and start winning, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a barrier, it's a bridge. And every time you cross it, you become stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the person you were always meant to be. Raising your standards and expecting more from life is a powerful declaration of self-respect. It's the moment you stop accepting the bare minimum and start aligning your life with your true potential. Too often people limit themselves not because they lack talent or ambition, but because they've been conditioned to believe that wanting more makes them ungrateful or unrealistic. But expecting more is not about entitlement, it's about alignment. It's about knowing that a meaningful, fulfilling, and abundant life is not just for other people, it's available to you too if you're willing to raise the bar. Your standards shape your reality. Whatever you consistently accept, tolerate, and expect will become the quality of your life. If your standard is chaos, that's what you'll live with. If your standard is mediocrity, that's what you'll keep repeating. But the moment you decide this is no longer enough for me, you start creating space for better. That decision alone can shift everything. Raising your standards begins with a clear vision of what you actually want. Too many people operate with vague desires. They say things like, I just want to be happy, or I want a better job, but they never define what that actually looks like. If you don't know what better means to you, how can you pursue it? You have to be specific about the kind of relationships, career, health, mindset, and life you want, and then commit to only accepting what aligns with that vision. Of course, this doesn't mean your life will magically change overnight. Raising your standards doesn't guarantee instant results, it demands consistent choices. It means no longer entertaining relationships that leave you drained, even if that means being alone for a while. It means not settling for a job that pays well but robs you of your joy. It means not ignoring red flags, even when they're wrapped in comfort or convenience. Every decision you make either reflects your old standards or affirms your new. Expecting more from life also requires you to expect more from yourself. It's not just about demanding better treatment from others, it's about showing up in ways that reflect your higher standards. That might mean improving your habits, speaking more confidently, taking responsibility for your growth, and pushing yourself beyond the limits of comfort. It means becoming the kind of person who matches the life you're asking for. There will be resistance internally and externally. People around you may not understand your new standards. Some may feel threatened or uncomfortable when you start saying no, setting boundaries, or choosing a new path. And that's okay. Growth often comes with loss. But the people and situations meant for your next level will only show up after you make room for them by letting go of what no longer fits. One of the most common mistakes people make is lowering their standards to avoid disappointment. They tell themselves it's better not to expect too much, because then they won't be let down. But that mindset keeps you stuck. It tells the universe, and more importantly, it tells you that you're not worth more. But you are. You are worthy of respect, love, abundance, peace, and purpose. And the more you believe that, the more you'll start to see it reflected in your life. In the end, raising your standards is not about perfection, it's about progression. It's about refusing to live on autopilot, refusing to make excuses, and refusing to settle for less than what you know you're capable of experiencing. Life will meet you at the level of your expectations, so expect more, demand better, and never forget, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you rise to the level of your standards.